Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Fresno, California. Fresno, the heart of the Central Valley, the heart of the great state of California. I'm glad you're here today. I'm glad I'm here today. I'm glad that this day is unfolding as a gift of greatness that was delivered to me this morning before I even opened my eyes. As I say oftentimes at the beginning of the show, I hope that before you opened your eyes, that you embraced the gift of today, declared that that which the divine principle that God has gifted you is meant to be experienced, expressed in divine goodness, happiness, peace, and harmony. Even when we have issues and obstacles, we still have the ability to be an overcomer, if you will. And that's part of what, as we've been going through the Art of Life book, or this thing called Life, written by Dr. Holmes. Last week, we finished up chapter 6, which was the Dr. Holmes's expression of the what we commonly refer to as the Lord's Prayer. How we can utilize that as a daily affirmation in our life experience. And if you missed that, you can go back and you can catch it off the Facebook page. It's on YouTube. But today we're gonna go through chapter 7. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on this. It's a chapter where Dr. Holmes is addressing the idea of growing old. That, he says that, he opens right up. He says, you do not have to grow old, which was quite a statement. Now, again, this book was written in 1948. And you say, well, yeah, but we do grow old. Well, yeah, we do, but look at how we grow old today versus how we grew old in 1948 when the book was written. If you were 50 years old in 1948, you were pretty old. If you lived past 62 years old, you were definitely a senior citizen. There weren't too many people that lived much beyond that. And yet today, individuals in their 60s, even in their 70s, are living a life of energy and vibrancy. And, oftentimes one of the things that I hear shared with me is, if I'd only known when I was young and invincible that I was going to live to be this old, and fill in the numbers, 50, 60, 70, 80, even 90 years old, I would have taken better care of myself. The thing is that we are living older. And part of my personal belief, part of the reason why that we are, is directly tied to consciousness and our understanding and expectation of life. And this is what Dr. Holmes was addressing when he wrote this chapter. He says, the mind does not grow old. Well, what is the mind anyway, he says? There you have me, for I have not the slightest idea of what, or he says, there you have me, because I have not the slightest idea what mind is. I had a friend who once had the great privilege of meeting Mr. Thomas Edison, and in a burst of enthusiasm, he asked, Mr. Edison, what is electricity? He looked at her very kindly and said, with a sort of whimsical smile, my dear, electricity is. We use it. The concept is life is, and we use it. How we use it, how we understand it. Yeah, the physical beingness that our body is, it expresses age, but even today, not as much as it used to at the numerical age we're at. There are individuals that start whole new careers in their 50s, 60s, and 70s with the expectation of, working or creating into their 80s, 90s, and possibly even past the century mark. So this is what he was talking about in this chapter. And like I say, I'm not going to dwell on that too much, other than to say that how we express life, how we experience life, is very specifically determined on how we hold in consciousness the idea of who and what we are. And so for this, I'm going to go back to the textbook today. There's a couple things I want to talk about, because oftentimes we see aging as creating a difficult part of our life, where we tend to, I'll say, people have an expectation that they're going to suffer more at that. But if you go to chapter 6 in the textbook, which is man's relationship to the spiritual universe, Dr. Holmes says, and he says, man is made out of and from life. As effect must partake of the nature of its cause, so man must partake of the divine nature from which he springs. We have that connection at the level of our belief and our level of understanding. He says, and this is, he says, the science of mind makes a tremendous claim when it states that the individual should be free from bondage of sickness, of poverty, and of unhappiness. And when Holmes wrote this, he didn't put any specific limitation on this, talking about age. He says, it does, however, carefully set forth the conditions under which freedom operates and the laws governing life, stating in no uncertain terms that unless man understands these conditions and obeys them, he will not receive he or she will not receive the full benefit from its teachings. And I go over this not infrequently, this idea that alignment with principle, alignment with God, alignment in consciousness, not just in words spoken, but in our heart, in our embodied beingness, having that alignment within ourselves as we seek to create an ever greater life expression and experience is critically important. You can't withhold, you can't have a special doubt or worry or limitation that you set aside that you're not going to give up so that you can go back and revisit it because it was tied to some part of your life where it allows you to be possibly a victim or something like that. You got to let it go. You got to align yourself. He goes on to say, the world is beginning to realize that it has learned all that it should through suffering and pain. Surely there can be no intelligence in the universe that wishes man or woman to be sick, suffer pain, be unhappy, and end in oblivion. Surely if God created, or if God or universal intelligence is imbued with goodness, then it could not ordain that humanity should ultimately be other than a perfect expression of life. We can talk about this idea, and I talked a little bit about it, this idea of suffering that, has been part of the consciousness of humanity, that life is suffering. We can take that back to the Buddha and many other spiritual teachings. Christianity has an understanding of suffering, but if you get into and read the teachings of Jesus, we understand that suffering is not meant to be our lot in life, so to speak. That our lot in life is to experience and express life at ever greater and higher degrees, to overcome, to persevere, to transcend, to move beyond. When we talk about the idea of having a bigger God, we're not talking about having a bigger God so that we don't have to suffer. We're talking about having a bigger God than whatever life may bring at us so that we can transcend it and be, if you will, victorious on the other side. And in that victory, we uplift ourselves, but we also uplift humanity with us, that we experience greater life, that we share greater life, that we employ greater life, greater livingness in everything that we do. And in that idea and understanding, suffering just doesn't have a home there. We can go on in this whole chapter, or a good part of it, on man's relationship with the spiritual universe. Holmes addresses this over and over again. He says, freedom or bondage. He says that we therefore arrive at the conclusion that while bondage is an experience, there is a reality to which bondage is not real. There is a reality to which bondage is not real. To that reality, bondage is not even an illusion or a hallucination. There is a part of us that is never fooled. That is why, in the midst of the greatest trial, death, or any other human suffering, something arises from within and says with Job, though I die, yet shall I live. Our perspective of consciousness, we have traditionally been taught this idea, this concept of suffering, so we have conditionally accepted that as an embodied belief. For the New Thought student, for the student of science of mind and spirit, the idea of moving beyond suffering as a necessary part of their life experience to overcoming, achieving, it's a radically different idea and concept, and oftentimes I think people get a little confused about that. So we're going to take our first break, and I'll see you when we come back.
Ghost Golf is Fresno's most spectacular family entertainment center. It's frightening how much fun you'll have on our 18-hole indoor haunted graveyard course. Skeletons welcome you, but watch out. All sorts of creatures may come to life. Ghost Golf is perfect for scary good parties, so book yours today. You'll get free plays at the Mummy Shooting Gallery, arcades, and air hockey. Check out our party and weekday specials online and like us on Facebook. Come play at family-friendly Ghost Golf. Good times will haunt you.
At McDermott Counseling, you will receive the highest level of care and a welcoming, safe space in which to discuss your most personal issues. Our therapists go above and beyond for you. Call 559-280-5756 or visit McDermottCounseling.com to find a caring therapist who best suits your needs. Diane Ainsworth's books of poetry and scriptures are available at CondioPress.com and as ebooks at Amazon.com. Diane hopes the words in her books will convey the unconditional love Jesus has for you. Learn more at God'sInspirationsBlog.wordpress.com and get a copy of Diane's books today.
Hello everyone, my name is Miss G. I offer fun and affordable promotion and advertisement on my talk show. It is called Fresno Vibes. We talk, we play awesome music. I also feature a bunch of different bartenders from different places. I like to have restaurants. I like to have any event, any kind of fun stuff. Contact me at rmgmissg@gmail.com and we will have so much fun and we will promote your business, promote your event right here on my show. So contact me. We'll have fun. Thank you.
Today, we bring you the first part of our global broadcast exclusive conversation.
The streets of Tahrir have once again been filled.
Key issues here at the United Nations Climate Change Conference remain unresolved.
Police are saying the protesters to move further and further away.
I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!
The Art of Becoming Who We Are in Christ by Jolene Kennedy is a book about the process of maturity as we find our true identity, since God's promises must be received, embraced, and activated within us. Get your copy today and check out JoleneKennedy.com. Visit the Armenian Museum of Fresno. The museum promotes and showcases rotating exhibitions of fine arts and provides a forum for the visual and performing arts, including music and literature, and holds workshops and symposiums. Doctor in Sukasa allows you to connect with your doctor when you need a quick treatment. Avoid a trip to a medical clinic or emergency room and connect by video with your doctor from your home, work, or anywhere. Just go to drinsukasa.com on your phone, tablet, or computer. Dr. in Sukasa provides quality care that is convenient, bilingual, and affordable, so you are never left without access to health care. Visit drinsukasa.com today. A dynamic litigator, in-tune listener, and forward thinker with almost a decade of experience, Nasser Nekumanish is a skilled attorney servicing clients throughout the Central Valley. When you need a lawyer, call 559-441-0114 and ask for Nasser Nekumanish.
So, referencing back to the art of life, or this thing called life, Dr. Holmes talks about the mind. He says the mind does not grow old, okay? You move through it, he says the mind never grows old. The real power of thought, of decision, imagination never grows old, okay? He says after a certain number of years, we are likely to get into a rut, and we do. And the idea of a rut is we habitually begin to limit ourselves, you know. And the amazing thing about life and living it at ever greater and higher degrees is we don't have to limit ourselves. We don't have to put ourselves in that habit. Oftentimes we settle because it's easy. But life wasn't meant necessarily to be easy. Life is meant for us to experience and express. Going back to the textbook, he says, freedom of will means the ability to do, say, think as one wishes, to express life as one personally desires, to be able to merely think and dream of freedom would not be liberty. A prisoner under a life sentence can do that. And that's what we become when we allow ourselves to be in a rut. But the mind never grows old. Then we can talk about, the various diseases that are prevalent in society today that somehow disrupt the ability to express. I believe that we can move beyond those. I believe that not only through our shift in consciousness, but our change, our advances in cognitive science, in medical science, in many different areas, we're moving forward. There's more people today that are suffering those, but the idea of it being a major part of our community is also there. Now, it begs the question, is it increased because there is an increased belief in it, or we prohibited from overcoming it because there's an increased belief in our inability to overcome it? And from a religious science, mind and spirit perspective, I tend to believe that humanity has put itself in bondage to beliefs that have limited it. That there is something beyond that, our ability to connect with that, and as we discover and implement and grow in our faith in this understanding of truth, that we see a greater expression of life. So moving forward, he says, we are in an infinite mind, and infinite mind is also in us. Well, infinite mind doesn't grow old. Mind in us is still that infinite mind. We are an expression of that. You cannot move beyond that concept, because divine principle, everywhere present, divine principle, that which we call God, expresses through all of creation. Through all of creation it expresses, which means it expresses through us. So going back here, Holmes says we are in an infinite mind, and an infinite mind is also in us. And he says it is by this mind that we think. This mind is eternal, therefore we are eternal. Again, society, conscious belief gives us a limited lifespan, but we are so much more than that, so much beyond that. And yet, because we generally accept that, we create the limitations that we experience in life. We don't have to grow old. Maybe the body will age because we haven't gotten to that place yet, but the mind never has to. We talk about living life and expressing life at ever greater and higher degrees of livingness. And basically, neuroscience, mind science, biology, physiology, everywhere you look today, they're telling us that the more active you are in life, the more you challenge yourself on a physical level and on a mental level. The more active the mind is, the younger the mind is, the more, in other words, as we seek to express life at a higher degree of livingness, life expresses back through us at that higher degree of livingness. If we seek to just accept, then we have set the chains of our own bondage, and we live with them. But we don't have to. We can move beyond that. When we teach young people that they can move beyond that, when they start out early on in life and they learn and they develop a belief that the only thing that truly limits them is the limits that they put on themselves. It makes no matter where you were born. It makes no matter how you identify as who you are by any of the various definitions in various ways. You were created. Each of us were created in the nature of the divine creator, which means in consciousness, we have available to us in potential everything that we could need, want, and desire to express far beyond our our wildest dreams and imaginations. At the level of our belief, we limit ourselves. At the level of our acceptance of receptiveness, we limit ourselves. But we can move beyond, and that's what Science of Mind and Spirit teaches, various New Thought teachings teach. There are other so-called secular teachings that basically express pretty much the same thing, because it's not about a particular religion, if you will. It's about how we utilize consciousness, our consciousness. And we can choose to utilize it at greater and higher degrees, regardless of what our personal theological, religious beliefs are. We have that choice. We have the ability to move and choose beyond that. He says, and he talks about that because we are created as individuals, that we're not created as automatons, if you will, but we are created with the ability to make choices. However, that's nice. However, if we fail to use that ability, then, we've lost, if you will, the benefits of that ability. If someone were to present you with a winning lotto ticket, for example, and you use it as a bookmark and never bothered to turn it in, it's just another piece of paper. The gift of choice, the gift of belief, the gift of the creative nature of who and what we are, the understanding that there's that within us that touches the center, the heart of all beingness, the universe. And we can call it Christ within, God within, but it's there. And it's there, and it awaits our awakening and recognizing it. And that's something that we have to do. That's part of our journey. There's one more thing I wanted to cover out of the textbook here. And he says the meaning of freedom implies possibility. It implies the possibility of suffering, because if we are free only by virtue of the possibility of choosing more than one course of action as an experience. There is no freedom or happiness as a spontaneous individuality, unless there can be a temporary restriction of bondage and unhappiness through the wrong use of freedom. We are free to grow. We are free to make choices. We are free to live beyond our wildest dreams. But we have to make that choice. We have to choose. We have to know and know that we know at some level within ourselves that life is not about accepting what is. And it's also not about living and using the past to define ourselves. We can all use our past as self-definition. To the extent we do that, we tie ourselves to it. If you want to move ahead, you want to move beyond, you take that past, you put it on the shelf, the book of history of your life, and you leave it there. And you start today with something new. That's a hard concept sometimes for people to think, but it's true. As you begin to learn that there's a power and a presence for good in the universe that is available to you, then you say, okay, that power, that presence isn't going to define me through how I used to be, what I had experienced, what unhappiness, the so-called suffering that I've had. I'm putting that all away because I have an expectation of a higher, greater degree of livingness. I can do it, and I can do it now. And that's where we start. That's where we move forward from that. So as we go back here, and we're in this chapter, he says, let us stop thinking about dying or quitting or getting through with living, and let us learn to enjoy and appreciate the eternal here and now, and let us allow all the hope and enthusiasm which we once thought had died to come to life again within us. In other words, if we have chained ourselves through habitual thinking to this is it, I put in my so many years, I got my retirement, I'm going to sit at home and play Scrabble or go fishing or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with sitting home and playing Scrabble if you have a desire to become a world champion Scrabble player, or fishing if you want to be an incredible fisherman. But do it at a greater and higher degree. Challenge yourself. Move into those challenges, transcend those challenges, and no matter what life challenges you with, realize that you have a bigger, greater God that is your guidance, it is the opportunity, it is the everything that you can need in potential when you recognize the potential and you choose to actualize it in your life. So, in the remaining chapters of the book, he says, we shall learn how to use this power consciously and intelligently, both for ourselves and for others. We are going to be very humble in this, but with no sense of false humility. Humble as we stand in awe before the tremendous possibilities before us, while at the same time radiant with expectancy as we contemplate the possibility of the blessings in store for ourselves and others. No matter where you're at today, make that choice today, here and now. There's a power I'm going to connect with, utilize. It will guide me, it will guard me, it will unfold within me, through me, in my life. Make that choice here, now, today. We're going to move forward. That's our declaration. And as we do that, we'll finish off the rest of the book. Maybe not today, but we'll move forward on it. For right now, though, we're going to take our next break. I'll see you when we come back. Hi, I'm the host of New Thought Talk, Reverend Steve Walling, and I want to take a moment today and give you an opportunity to support our ministry, support our show. You can do that through a PayPal payment. You send the payment through PayPal to the email address of Madera, MADERASAC @gmail.com. If you don't have a PayPal account, you can go down below the link and you can find where you can enter a debit or credit card. I want to thank those that have supported us and those that will continue to support us. You have a great day. Bye.
If you're looking for a firm that will focus on your individual needs and always treat you like a customer who matters, then look no further than Diaz Financial Services. Diaz Financial Services is large enough to offer a full range of professional services, but small enough to give you the individual attention that you deserve. Call Diaz Financial Services at 559-840-0202 and visit diazfs.com. Call Nicole Hamilton McManus at 559-917-3040 to buy this perfect, romantic, rustic ranch with a 2-home setup. Located only 12 miles from the entrance to Kings Canyon and Sequoia National Parks. This beautifully maintained property boasts of amenities and custom features. The main home is a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,670 square feet. The guest home is 2 bedrooms, 1 bath with 1,163 square feet. Also features a 75-foot lap pool, a cabana, a beautiful garden, and 2 small nearby ponds. Call Nicole Hamilton McManus at 559-917-3040. Fleet Feet Fresno is more than just a running and sportswear store. Fleet Feet Sports' mission is to provide runners and other active Fresnans with gear that fits their individual needs, training that helps them reach their fitness goals, and races that satisfy their competitive spirit. Get to know Fleet Feet Fresno today. If your home floods, who will you call? When your house springs a leak, it's time to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. Clean Master will be there in 60 minutes to start fixing your home. And Clean Master bills your insurance directly, saving you the hassle because you've got enough to worry about. Clean Master also offers carpet and upholstery cleaning, carpet repair, pet odor removal, and more. Remember, Clean Master Emergency Flood Service, 559-213-9430, and visit cleanmasterflood.com. Doctor in Sukasa allows you to connect with your doctor when you need a quick treatment. Avoid a trip to a medical clinic or emergency room and connect by video with your doctor from your home, work, or anywhere. Just go to drinsukasa.com on your phone, tablet, or computer. Dr. in Sukasa provides quality care that is convenient, bilingual, and affordable, so you are never left without access to health care. Visit drinsukasa.com today. Are you thinking of selling your home? Since 2004, the Souza Group, brokered by eXp Realty, has specialized in premier property listings and sales located in the Clovis Unified and North Fresno markets. The Souza Group will do their best to exceed your expectations. Visit clovisunifiedhomes.com. Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine, available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center, Fresno, California. Okay, moving forward to Chapter 8 in The Art of Life, or this thing called life, depending on which edition you may have, it's the same book. He says, in studying the words of Jesus, we find that he never talked much about negative conditions. He never talked about the negative conditions that he wished to change. He took an opposite position. Instead of telling God how sick and poor people were, how famished and lonely they were, he affirmed the exact opposite. He told the lame to walk, the blind to see, the dumb to speak, and the deaf to hear. He commanded the waves to be still, even while they were turbulently tossing themselves about. He was calm in the midst of the storm. As I said in the previous segment, we have our story. And I was speaking with a woman earlier today who grew up in a neighborhood that was very impoverished. You know, she, up until her first year of high school, they had no indoor plumbing. And yet, she is celebrating a reunion, a community reunion in her neighborhood that has produced a greater number of college graduates than the whole surrounding area. And yet they were impoverished. But they had a sense of community, a sense of belonging, and a forward-looking consciousness was taught to them. Unlike what's taught in so many places today, you know, the idea of looking forward to the future with an expectation of greater good, greater achievement, greater abundance. Whether it be through wanting to maybe protect our young people or what, we shelter them from the idea of achieving, accomplishing, overcoming, which means in the process that they're going to have to learn, they're going to grow, they're going to struggle, but they don't have to suffer. Even if they experience failure, does not necessarily have to be suffering. It can be a learning experience. And I talked a little bit about this in the first segment, and I want to address this because one of the arguments, if you will, that I have heard is that in religious science and other New Thought beliefs, that somehow there is a consciousness that says that diminishes, I should say, the experience of an individual that experiences struggles in their life. That somehow they are not in alignment, or that they haven't fully embodied the belief, or whatever, fill in the blank, so to speak. Life comes at us at the speed of life, absolutely, which means it's going to bring challenges, and those challenges are not necessarily going to be of a nature that we would wish on anybody, and yet here we are and we're faced with them. The challenge to us is, as we remold our consciousness, as we rebuild, if you will, our belief system, such that we recognize that life is going to challenge us. We also recognize that we have a bigger God. We recognize that things are going to be of a serious nature. We recognize we have a bigger God. We recognize that we're going to experience loss in our life. We still recognize that we have a bigger God. Life, if you look at life as this limited physical experience, then there's a lot of loss involved. But if you look at life as an eternal creation, that as we were created in the image and likeness, the nature of the divine, as individuals, that we are here to express in greater and higher degrees of livingness, but we're not here to live here forever. We're here to live here and to live beyond here. That when the physical body expires, the spiritual beingness that is us, the personality, if you will, lives far beyond. We are not our mind, and our mind is not our body. There has been, in science, particularly in the materialistic side of science, the push to tie the mind to the body, consciousness to the brain, if you will. And with the ever greater degrees of effort, has not produced the results that science would like to see. There is an area now in studies that is based in a greater metaphysical foundation that we haven't seen in science in many years, because science can't explain the nature of the universe, can't explain the nature of consciousness, can't explain the concept of life and livingness. Our journey, we're here to move beyond here, if you will. What the master teacher, what Jesus taught so many years ago, was a truth for all ages, if you will, that in so many ways the message got lost in the messenger. He began to teach that we could live life and live life more abundantly. He began to teach that we had to align ourselves with principle. And the tool, the teaching that he used for that was the two great commands: love God with all that we are, I'm paraphrasing, and love your neighbors yourself. And you've heard, if you watched the program, very frequently I go back to this. This is so important. We cannot, and that's where we start, if you will. We cannot leave that behind. We cannot set that aside. And people tend to do that. We get caught up in our life. In our belief that we are limited, we set that aside. If we love God with all that we are, and we accept that God is the allness of all that is, that therefore we are an expression of God expressing through us as us, we're in that command to love ourselves with all that we are. That's a big bite sometimes if you grew up with issues in your life, but it's not a bite that you can't take, even if you have to start with small segments to begin with. Love ourselves, love God, love our neighbors. In other words, the commandment is to love. When we understand that the divine principle, the creative source of all that is, the main word that we use to define that is love. In any way, shape, or form that we separate ourselves out, that we define ourselves differently from that, then we also separate ourselves out from our ability to be the true pilot captain of our life experience. And so our journey is, to a great extent, a self-discovery, a peeling back the layers, getting down to the core of our beingness, and then realizing that once we are there, that we are one with all that is, that there is no other than the one, and we are a part of that expressing. So when he goes on, Holmes says here, he says, when Jesus, he told the lame to walk, the blind to see, the dumb to speak, and the deaf to hear, he commanded the waves to be still. He did these things in the midst of the chaos, if you will. He did these things, but he didn't do these things as the great exception, but rather as a great example. When we affirm when we in Science, Mind, and Spirit, what we call treat, which is a form of affirmative prayer, we take that and align ourselves as best we can in consciousness with truth. We make our declarations. We have, a step of gratitude, thanksgiving. We release this to the divine principle, to God. Let it go. Let God do. Holmes says, when you pray or affirm your good, close the door of your consciousness to everything which denies this good and state your needs, not as supplication, but as an affirmation of acceptance. Not as a statement of what is to be, but an affirmation of acceptance. But we have to let go of the past. We have to let go of past beliefs, past limitations. It really does kind of wrap itself up in beliefs in all forms. And as we're moving and attempting to move forward, if we're struggling, if we look at life and it's like things just aren't firing on all cylinders, so to speak, then let's pause, take a look at our life, because life mirrors back to us what we believe. If we're experiencing certain things, then at some level, there's a belief that we hold, whether we're aware of it or not, that we are or should or are part of, or some way we have a belief that is reflected in that experience. When I talk to people, I tell them, sit down, take a blank sheet of paper, line paper, and write out, leave a little space between lines, what's going on in your life. Leave that paper, it's kind of like mind mapping, but a little bit different. Leave that paper out where you can go back to it. Take a couple of weeks, things that come to mind that you're experiencing in your life. And it may take several pages to do it, but after you've done that and you think you've pretty much covered it, then go back and look at those various things, and below each one, ask yourself, what do I have to believe for this to be true in my life? And it may be one belief, maybe a couple, but fill them in. Then separate those out by beliefs. And you can begin to see where, you believe in limitation. Well, that may be a more specific belief of a certain type of limitation, maybe in relationships or financial or in health or whatever. You also find that various circumstances in your life may span different beliefs. You have a belief over here that includes a bad relationship, and a belief over here, limitation and poor self-worthiness, various things. And then one by one, address those beliefs within yourself as you do your affirmative treatment. It is a journey, a process, and can take time. But each and every day, commit yourself to it. Practice. And one of the things that throughout all of Holmes' teachings is this idea of practice, putting it into practice in your life. So we're going to take our last break, and I'll see you when we come back.
Ghost Golf is Fresno's most spectacular family entertainment center. It's frightening how much fun you'll have on our 18-hole indoor haunted graveyard course. Skeletons welcome you, but watch out. All sorts of creatures may come to life. Ghost Golf is perfect for scary good parties, so book yours today. You'll get free plays at the Mummy Shooting Gallery, arcades, and air hockey. Check out our party and weekday specials online and like us on Facebook. Come play at family-friendly Ghost Golf. Good times will haunt you.
At McDermott Counseling, you will receive the highest level of care and a welcoming, safe space in which to discuss your most personal issues. Our therapists go above and beyond for you. Call 559-280-5756 or visit McDermottCounseling.com to find a caring therapist who best suits your needs. Diane Ainsworth's books of poetry and scriptures are available at condiopress.com and as ebooks at amazon.com. Diane hopes the words in her books will convey the unconditional love Jesus has for you. Learn more at godsinspirationsblog.wordpress.com and get a copy of Diane's books today.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. So we were talking about affirmative treatment, talking about letting go, and as we seek to move forward, it's not, and I can't make this point any more clear than to say that as we seek to move forward, we do let the past go in its entirety. So often we self-define because of the events in our past. And it's not that some of those events, by any stretch of the imagination, we would not or could not define in any other way than terrible, tragic, or whatever. But that doesn't define who you are today. As an expression of God today, there's nothing in you that has to hold you to tragedy today. You may have had tragedy in your life, but you let it go today, and you affirm that your good is here today. And as we were going to the break, I talked about Holmes talking about practice. And it is a practice, It's a faith, a philosophy, a way of living, or a philosophy of faith, a way of living. However, on the cover of the textbook, a way of living, a new way of living, a new way of addressing life, a new way of assuming a higher, greater level and degree of responsibility for how we experience life and how we express life. Life will bring to us things that can be difficult. Christian Larson, in several of his books, talks about the idea of finding good in everything that life brings to us. That can be, that skill, and it is a skill, can be a real stretch to learn, but it can be learned. And that doesn't mean in the learning that we minimize, but we learn to reposition ourselves in consciousness. And as we do, we become stronger within ourselves. As we do, our faith grows within ourselves. As we do, we realize that our life experience is ours. We own it. There's nothing that you own any more intimately than your experience in this life, this livingness, this thing called life, the art of life. We can own a house, we can own a car, we can own many different things. We sell them, we trade them, we lose them, whatever. But our life, that's the one true thing that we really own. And in that owning, we are the determinant. We, in consciousness, are the determinant of what that is and what it's going to be. That's the gift that the master teacher brought to the world. Maybe it was marginalized. There's a lot of history there. Things we'll talk about another day, another time. But as we finish out the last part of this little book, and next week we'll probably just kind of move through the rest, because he gives a lot of examples and shares a lot of experiences that he had. Create your own experiences. Create your own good. Don't settle. Know that there's greater good. If you're not used to it, don't let it beat you up. Take it small steps at a time. But you can do it. You can. You have a bigger God. You have that within you that has the infiniteness at its beck and call, if you will, at the level of your belief and acceptance and opening. So he says, again, I'll go back. When you pray or affirm your good, Close the door of your consciousness to everything which denies this good, and state your needs not as a supplication, but as an affirmation of acceptance. Accept your good because it's already here in potential. Accept your good. Don't project out that your good is going to show up. Accept it as already being. Let it demonstrate. Let it manifest. Let it be the experience in your life. Let it be that reality. There is a reality which knows no suffering. Think about it. Too often we want to claim our suffering. Too often we want to just experience because we've been taught to. So I'm going to go back here again. See if I can catch this before I close. He says, we therefore arrive at the conclusion, while bondage is an experience, there is a reality to which bondage is not real. To that reality, bondage is not even an illusion or hallucination. There is a part of us that is never fooled. That is why, in the midst of the greatest trial, death, or any human suffering, something rises from within and says, with Job, though I die, yet shall I live. And I'll leave you with that thought today. Life is great. Each and every day, as you claim it, if you're having some issues in your life, just start with that. Make a commitment to do it. Stick with it. There's a feeling within me that I'd like to express that I don't have the words for, other than to tell you there is a greater hope for a greater good to see the light of day in this world, and you and I are part of that. So I thank you for being with us today. I thank you for taking the time to make yourself important. Continue, work on yourself. Of course, you can email me, contact me. I answer emails, I answer questions, I treat. If you got a topic at some point that you'd like to see expressed on the show, let me know. Love to hear from you. Always enjoy when I do. I'm going to close. We got a little late start today, and we're going to close out, shorten it up a bit. I'll see you next week. The Art of Life, this thing called life, Ernest Holmes. There's a power and a presence for good that is available to you right here, right now. Claim it, own it. And so as you go through the week, know that the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, all is well. God is there. Don't forget that, wherever you are. Okay? Have a great week. Take care, my friends.
The Kern family of the Kern Family Farm invites you to eat delicious, nutritious, organic produce available at the Gnarly Carrot. Located at 32954 Road 222 in North Fork, California, the Gnarly Carrot is a local, natural, seasonally changing market offering a wide range of products from local Central Valley vendors. Get your caffeine fix, grab a smoothie, and support small businesses. Learn more at KernFamilyFarm.com and visit the Gnarly Carrot today.
We forget about the higher good of food, right? You're growing a product that people enjoy really all over the world. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I think about that all the time. I think about the families sitting around a table, enjoying a meal. I just see that what we do brings families together.
I mean, we're blessed. We're in paradise for food.